This is your host, Tia. This is your host, Tia. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Top 10 Live Geek Vibes Nation. Geek Vibes Nation. Nation. The Top 10. The Top 10. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Top 10 by Geek Vibes Nation. We didn't get to do a Top 10 last week. We are back for the Top 10 this week, and I'm very excited. And also, I'm your host, Tia, and I have with me, as always, my amazing co-host, Brittany. How are you this evening?
To say I'm amazing. I've been messing with my 3D printer and I want to throw it across the room, but besides that, I'm great.
Okay, so quick interjection that has absolutely nothing to do with the podcast today, but did you ever see the movie Office Space?
Is that the one where they beat up the printer?
Yes.
Yeah, oh my god, I have not fully actually seen it. But
it's one of those movies that you see it and it's obviously hilarious, and then you go and work in an office and then you just kind of realize how relatable it actually is.
I think that's where I am right now, because you're like, you should work. I paid for you. I did exactly what everything said, and yet you still decide not to work. Why?
That's what happens with, not to sound like an old person, but you go, goddamn technology. And it's really true sometimes, though, because as I said, working in an office, so another quick story. I worked at a law office, only for a few months right out of college. It was essentially my first office job. And they had this big ass printer. It was supposed to be able to print something like 50, 100 pages, whatever, double-sided, staple, all this like crazy shit, because it was it was for a law office. So obviously they had to be able to have a printer that could do a lot of these sort of things for their litigations and shit like that. Anyway, that thing never worked. Do you know how much anxiety I would have, like, as a new person, as the assistant, as someone who never worked in an office before, to be like, here, copy all these things and then make all these copies and everything. And they're supposed to be like 50-page documents where you're supposed to scan things, and it's front and back and it gets stapled, and like the papers would get caught, or it wouldn't print front to back, or, it didn't staple correctly. Oh my God. I mean, I sat there and was like, this is the worst thing ever. This is so much stress. And it just never worked. So anyway, printers suck. Is what I'm trying to get at here.
They do suck. Oh, they do suck.
Yeah, so that's the main lesson here. That's the takeaway. But yeah, so Brittany and I are back, and we are going to do the top 10 Loki moments from the MCU. So just to make it clear,
here for it.
It's not the top 10 Loki moments from the show Loki, because as of recording this episode, there's only been 2 episodes. So this is Loki from the entire MCU. We did, I think about a month or so ago, the top 10 Black Widow moments, because the Black Widow movie is coming out soon. And so I figured, with the Loki show being out, why not talk about the one character who's just been a constant throughout the MCU. And, for a long time before Thanos came to the picture, I mean, people always compared every villain to Loki. So, I mean, realistically, why not have an episode of the top 10 moments of Loki?
I know. And I would just say, Tia fucking loves Loki. Like, I love Loki. This lady loves Loki. Like, more than anything. Probably your favorite. Would you say he's your favorite MCU character?
100%. I say this all the time, that it is Loki that got me into the MCU. Like, granted, I saw the first Iron Man in theaters, right? I saw it. I was excited for it. I loved it. Robert Downey Jr. was great. Loved the story they told. And so, at the time, for, at the end of that movie for Tony Stark to come out and say he was Iron Man, like that was huge, a superhero who's actually, revealing his secret identity. So it's like, yeah, no, I was totally here for it with the first Iron Man, but seeing the first Thor and seeing this character Loki, who I had no previous knowledge of at all, it's just for some reason my mind gravitated towards this character, and his involvement was why I was excited to see the first Avengers. It's like, yeah, I'm excited.
He was
obviously
the best villain.
It's like, yeah, obviously I'm excited for the team up and everything, but they're going against Loki. Oh shit.
I know. I'm gonna say I think he ticks all your boxes though. He's got long hair, dark hair.
Yeah.
He's tall.
Yeah.
He's more lithe. He's thinner. And I'm like, this is like Tia's perfect man over here.
Yeah, 100%.
He's evil, which is like another cherry on top.
And 100%. I mean, I think if anyone ever questions, hey, do you love the character Loki? It's like, I have 2 Loki tattoos. I think I pretty much solidified on my own body that this is a character that I just love. So, yeah. But, I mean, it's crazy.
You didn't stand a chance.
No.
He would have said, what does he say, Neil? And he was like, yes, sir.
Oh, 100%. It was so funny. So we just started doing the Marvel Cinematic Review shows again, which are the shows that we do now every Wednesday night. We were doing them Saturdays, but we're doing them Wednesday now. And for the first show a couple of weeks ago, when we reviewed the first episode of Loki, I literally dug out of my closet a shirt that I had gotten back when the first Avengers movie came out. And it literally says, keep calm, because remember those shirts were really big back in the day, the keep calm and carry on shirts.
Yeah.
And it was like, keep calm and join Loki's army. And I literally like pulled it out of my closet for that episode.
Oh, I love that. I'm glad you had it.
Yeah. No, I keep clothes. Paulie and I have these conversations now where it's like, new clothes versus old clothes. And it's like getting new clothes are great. But when I have an article of clothing that I love, it's like I stick to it and I keep it forever. And that is that shirt. So, yeah.
You know what? I'm there for it. I'm there for it. That's like, I have trouble throwing away old cosplays and stuff because I'm like, am I going to need this for anything? And like, look at the other clothing I haven't worn in absolute years, but I'm still holding on to it just in case.
Well, I mean, that's like, I'll always keep my pair of trip pants. Just in case, Oh
my God, you still have the same trip pants from your childhood, right?
I do. Because, first of all, that was $75. That was a lot of money as a teenager. And it's almost as if it's two things, right? It's almost like a memorialization of my, like, punk days. And also, I feel like there's this whole... Okay. So, when we were younger, I don't know if you did it, but when I was like a teenager, me and all my friends, Alora and everything, would sit there and go, man, I wish I grew up in the 80s, because I'm all into like hair metal and shit like that. I was born in the wrong era. And now I'm seeing these kids, but I'm seeing kids on TikTok who go, oh, you guys who grew up in, the early 2000s during like the skater and the emo and the goth phase, like I envy you. I wish I was growing up during that. And I'm like, it's come full circle. And I see all these
come full circle.
I see all these Gen Zers wearing like scene sort of clothing and trip pants and shit. And I'm like, oh my God, our fashion is coming back.
Either die young or live long enough to see the kids consider you old now.
Oh yeah, I mean, the song 1985. It's like they're going to be making a song 2005 or something.
I know. You know what's funny is I still think and I go, oh, early 2000s. I'm like, oh, this one song has to be there, and I'm like, oh no, that was like 2010, and I'm like, what the fuck happened in the early 2000s? Where was I? What was I doing? And then you're like, oh yeah, I was like 6 years old.
No, the biggest thing for me is when someone goes, oh, hey, millennials want to feel old. The 90s were 30 years ago. And I sit there and I go, No, they weren't. They were like just 10 years ago. And then you're sitting there, the thing from TikTok that's like, oh no, oh no, oh no,
Oh
oh,
no, no,
oh.
no, yeah,
Yeah. And I,
yeah.
and I sit there and I go, well, Tia, you were born in 1990. So you're 31, meaning the 90s were 31 years ago. And it's like,
Oh
no. But anyway.
Feeling old. I just turned 27. I still need to hit my 30s.
Shut up.
Oh, whatever.
But we're
still
here
laughing over the trip pants.
Oh my god. We're here to talk about the God of Mischief, who is at least 1,500 years old. So, we're still young compared to Asgardians.
Then quick question. Do you think if he was a little goth kid back in the early 2000s, you think he would have been wearing trip pants?
Oh, hell yeah. Loki definitely would have been wearing trip pants back in the day. He's already like a goth emo.
He's already got enough daddy issues.
Quick thing before we get into the list here. Did you know, I'm sure I've said this before and you probably just know out of just knowing, that Tom Hiddleston, who plays Loki, originally auditioned to play Thor.
Yeah, I saw that, which is insane because I know he is more of a natural blonde, like sandy blonde almost.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I wonder, I think he would have been able to beef out for it.
Well, so the thing is,
because he's never played anything that's had to be like huge.
Well, the thing is, there are interviews where, he reveals this, and there is a test photo out there. And I mean, he did say he's not nearly as massive as Chris Hemsworth. I mean, that's just like on crazy level, but he did bulk a little for it. You could see the potential there, but then they said, we already got this other guy that we think would actually be perfect for Thor, but would you like to read the part of Loki? Can you imagine if Tom Hiddleston said no? If he was like, actually, no, I just really want to play Thor. It's like, man, where would we be today?
I'm seeing it. I don't like him. I don't like him as Thor.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now too.
I'm like, no, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the offer, but no, thank you.
I'm looking at it now. Oh man, no offense, Tom Hiddleston. We love you, but you definitely, it was Disney, Marvel, Kevin Feige, whatever. You all made the best decision to not cast him as Thor. But
they were like, who's gonna play Loki? Oh yeah, another man that wishes he was Thor.
Well, okay. I know I keep saying one more thing. I'm like the queen of that. One more thing.
One more thing.
The best is when you look at the old article from Variety that came out, now more than 10 years ago, that goes, Marvel cast 2 unnamed actors to lead their Thor movie. And it's like, they're not unknown now. They're definitely like Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston are definitely not unknown now, but it's crazy to think that they were considered unknown actors. So the Thor movie literally made their career. So, again, we love to see it, but,
we love to see it.
Before we get into this top 10, we always have to give a massive shout out to our friends over at Stranger Damies. Stranger Damies is a D&D podcast from the Main Damie family of podcasts, which the Main Damie Network, I believe, said on Twitter that they just celebrated their 3-year anniversary. So that's awesome. We love the guys over at the Main Damie. They also have a podcast called They Call This a Movie, where they go over terrible movies and just kind of do it in such a funny manner. As I said, they have Stranger Damies, which is a D&D podcast that you can find over at Twitter and Instagram at Stranger Damies. And they have Game Vault podcasts, where you can see one of the members of the Main Damie, Dan, his wife, Jen, who is awesome. So make sure you check that out. And yeah, they're just great people. Make sure you go check them out. Tell them that Tia and Brittany said hi. Them. They're so cool.
They always raid me on Twitch. They're always raiding me, and I love it. And I'm also making them D&D dice. I gotta wait for the molds to come in, and then I'm gonna make them their own custom dice with their logo.
Which is amazing. I love that. It's like that's what, us at Geek Vibes Nation, we like to bring people together. And it's like, look at this. We're all bringing people together. We love it. It's family, man. I love it. I love it. But Brittany, why don't you start us off our top 10 Loki moments in the MCU? What is your number 10?
I always have a time picking initially because they're all so fucking good. But I'm gonna go up with a classic goodie just because I wanted to be there. I'm gonna go with, let me see here, the sheer panic on Loki's face whenever he was with the what was his name? The Grandmaster. Whenever when they're on the planet, his sheer panic when he's like, "Yeah, I'm snoozing. I'm great. I love this," and he sees the fucking hole and the sheer panic on his face. He's like, "No, no, 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 no! I need to go. I need to go." And I know it's such a silly moment, but I live for it. And the reason I live for it is because Loki's always like, "I'm very ahead of myself. I'm very, I'm very posh. I'm very suave." And then it's like, "Oh, fuck, Jesus. Okay, dude, I need to go. I need to go." And the girl's like, "Wow, what's wrong? What? This my champion." But I love that scene in general because that leads into my other favorite scene when he's like watching Thor get his ass beat by the Hulk at first, and he's like, "Yeah, that's what it feels like." And you wouldn't really expect that from Loki, but it makes me laugh so freaking hard because Loki was living his best life. That was all he ever wanted, and he got it.
No, so that is one of the best Loki scenes, honestly, because as you said, he was really thriving on that planet with the Grandmaster. So he's at this party, as you said it perfectly. And I believe he says, "I have to get off this planet." And it was so funny because you don't think of Loki as panicking. And so the fact that the Hulk was able to just imprint such a lasting memory on Loki is just so great. And just him, then when Thor gets his ass beat, him going, "Yes, that's what it feels like." And everyone's looking at him so strange, and he goes, "Oh, I'm just such a fan of this sport." I was
right. You know what I think I love about that suit too is it's like, you would think, oh, that wouldn't really hurt him, but it goes to show how strong the Hulk is, where a literal god is sitting there going, "Yeah, fuck that guy. That hurt like hell. And I remember it."
It's like Loki's been through so much, right? You got to imagine he's gotten his ass beat quite a number of times throughout the years. And for that to be the thing that he remembers is just, it's so amazing.
What did Hulk say to him? Puny god.
Yeah, puny god. I know.
I love it. See, I know it's like so much smaller, but I think it was like a show character.
No, I love it. It was actually on my list as well because I thought that it was a great scene with Loki, and it was great, as you said, as we keep kind of stressing here, that it showed that even Loki can feel panic because you mentioned it perfectly. He's very suave and very sure of himself and such, and to kind of show that a lot of that is a farce, essentially. A lot of that is almost fake. So I very, very, very much enjoyed it. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying I did too. I loved it.
So great way to start the top 10. I wholeheartedly approve here. Wonderful. For the number 9, so this scene to me, right? We always say this, by the way, if you're a first-time listener, thank you, welcome to our podcast. Even though we do the top 10, it's never in a linear order. So, but it's
never that way.
But if we were doing this sort of podcast in a more linear fashion, I would say that this part should be higher on the list, but I'm putting it here because this we just said Loki got me into the MCU, and this is the scene that really solidified me loving Loki. And it's a very well-known scene, and it's the scene where Loki demands Odin to tell him about his origins. And I just remember being in the theater when they're in that whatever basement or something, and Loki kind of finds out that something isn't quite right with him. You know, he's turning blue and shit. And Odin's standing there and everything, trying to kind of talk his way out of it. And Loki's just like, you know, tell me what's up. And then him just shouting, tell me. And I just remember like so impressed that an actor could just, you know, put all those emotions in his face and everything like that. I was just watching, just so like enamored with it. And I remember when it was on, you know, eventually the clip went on YouTube and everything. I remember just kind of rewatching it because I was just obsessed with it. I loved it. I thought it was a great scene. I love seeing, I love that whole interaction of Odin then finally telling Loki what his origins are, that he's a frost giant. And, you know, Loki not, I don't know how to say it, not just taking that, right? Not then being like, oh, okay, that's it. That's the end of it. Him then demanding for Odin to keep going because he's like, no. It wasn't that just, you know, you were in the heat of battle and, you know, you decide, oh, poor baby, let me take the baby. It's like, no. You were in the middle of war, blah, blah, blah. And then finally to get out from Odin that he was essentially going to use Loki as some sort of bargaining chip. And I mean, I'm sorry, I just remember being so enamored with it. But go ahead, Brittany, what do you think about this scene?
I was going to say, isn't the same one where he's like, it was my birthright, and he was like, your birthright was to die?
No, that's a different one. So that scene that you're talking about is from the second Thor when Loki is in
Is that on your list? I don't want to accidentally discuss it.
Sorry, I muted myself by accident. No, it wasn't on my list. So no, it's fine. But I was going to say that was the second Thor when, you know, that because that's when Loki comes back from having tried to take over the world in Asgard. And, you know, Odin's essentially going, well, why'd you do that? And Loki said, it's my birthright. And Odin was like, your birthright was to die. Again, two amazing examples as to why Odin was kind of a shitty dad. I know he redeemed himself in Ragnarok, but I swear those two scenes are like the posters of shitty fathers.
He really fucked up his kids. Poor, like, Hela. She's like, yeah, I made daddy happy. I made him proud. Oh, what? I don't fit into his perfect world anymore? I guess I'm getting sealed away.
But yeah, no, it's so funny that you say that because you know, I think we were talking about that on the Loki podcast recently where it was like, oh, you know, oh, Hela's the villain, you know, yada yada yada. And it's like maybe it was something with Odin because she got, you know, he locked his daughter away, as you said, giving her positive affirmations for so long that her killing was okay and warranted. And then as soon as he had a change of heart, then it was like, whoa, we gotta lock up with this girl. And then, you know, Loki turns out the way he does, and Thor was a bit of an asshole. So, you know, it probably was Odin.
Would you consider that he was with this whole thing with was it Jane? Was that her name?
He hated Jane. He called her a goat.
Would you consider that specious or racist?
Oh, I don't want to get into that sort of debate on here.
No. I'm just saying, like, he seemed to only really like Asgardians. I'm not saying like that. It's definitely like on the list of awful father things.
It's definitely a degree of like elitism, right? Thinking that she's so beneath them and everything like that. I remember, and listen, like full disclosure, I was never the biggest fan of Jane. I just kind of found her character boring. But I will say I highly dislike Darcy, and the WandaVision show completely changed my view of her. So I could be wrong, Taika Waititi could be doing an amazing job with her in the fourth Thor. But my point in saying is that I didn't necessarily like Jane, but I still was like, Odin, yo, that's foul. How do you call her a goat?
Yes. I would say, well, that's what was fucked up because he very much was like he wanted him to be like he wanted Thor to be with an Asgardian. He very much looked down on her. I was like, that's just another list of shitty, things he's been or done.
Yeah, no. Odin definitely doesn't get any award for being like father of the year or something like that. But yeah, I love that scene in the first Thor when Loki, screams at Odin to tell him the truth and everything. And I don't know, I was so impressed. I was so taken back by that scene. So like, I don't know, it made me feel things, that scene, to just see him like, see him so desperate. And I think that started off the whole thing of Loki really just wanted his father's approval. He just literally wanted his father's approval. So I don't know. I love that scene. That's going to be my number 9. But Brittany, let's move on. What is your number 8?
Let me see here. I just have to look at my list. I'm afraid of it is always the order part, but I almost want to go into I'm gonna go with a very small scene. The reason why I'm using this scene is because just goes to show that even if Loki isn't in something very long, he really has a way of stealing the show. Do you remember when he's walking with Thor? I think it was the second movie.
Yes.
And he starts turning into Captain America and like fucking around and being mocking. And for some reason, I always love that scene. I used to watch it on repeat, like on YouTube, because I loved him just turning into Who else did he turn into?
I think he turned into Lady Sif, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, and then he's just like, I'm trying to remember that. Like for me, it caught me so off guard because we had had the Avengers, but at that point, you didn't see much of an interaction with Loki with the other characters at that point because this is a different movie. You hadn't seen it in a little while, and I don't know why it was just like kind of like nice to see his like more in depth look at like the how he thinks of the other characters. And Loki really does see Captain America as, oh, I'm goody two shoes. I'm a Boy Scout. I don't do anything. But because you got to remember at that point, he's still remembering, original, I wanted to say Captain Rogers, but, Steve Rogers, because we really saw that development of Captain America actually becoming, a little more hardened, a little bit like he was scary in the Winter Soldier. So to see that Loki was just seeing him still as like Boy Scout, I don't know. It did things for me.
No, I loved it because I don't think we expected to see Chris Evans in Thor 2. And
I'm gonna say
this scene was on my list as well because it's such a fantastic scene. As you said, it's short, but it's so iconic. Just Loki being a little shit brother and pissing Thor off and just mocking him like, oh, look, you're new friends. Okay, who should I be? Oh, should I be righteous like Captain America and everything like that? And it was just so great.
It was very jarring. It caught me so off guard. I think it was also because I think this was from the second movie, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That movie sucked so bad. I think at that point we were just sitting there going, well, at least we got this.
I say all the time, I hated Thor: The Dark World. And what's so funny? I'm not even the biggest fan of the first Thor. I just love Loki in it.
Oh, me neither.
And people say that sometimes to me where they say, how could you be a Loki fan if you dislike the first 2 Thor? It's like, Loki was great in those movies. I just think the movies were bad. I mean, the first Thor is definitely better than the second Thor. The second Thor is virtually unwatchable. during the beginning of this whole pandemic, right? I almost did like a Marvel binge-a-thon and shit. And I tried to go back and rewatch the second Thor. And after a while, I just had to start skipping. I just had to start skipping
Oh, I
scenes.
know.
But definitely this
Do you
scene
ever
was one
hate
of
that?
them that I didn't skip, you know?
uh, Do you ever have that moment where you hate yourself because you want to like rewatch a movie because you're like, oh, it's kind of like I would love to replay Resident Evil 8 for Carl Heisenberg, but then I'm like, oh, I can just watch all the clips online, and you sit there and you're like, but I kind of want to watch the whole thing over again, but I also know that all those good scenes are on there, but you still find yourself skipping around to it anyways.
I mean, listen, again, there's a lot of fantastic scenes. I don't know if this is on your list, so I will be very vague about it. But the end of Thor 2 was great. That little tease with Loki and everything. I mean, that was a great scene. So there was a few really great scenes from Thor: The Dark World, but overall, it was just trash.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty trash.
That's the movie why I dislike Jane and Darcy so much. I didn't really mind them in the first one. Like again, going back and rewatching it, I'm sitting there going, "Oh God, I could care less about. Couldn't care less. Sorry, couldn't care less." Everyone uses "could care less," and it's completely grammatically incorrect. Couldn't care less about either of these characters. Right? It's almost like when you watch Transformers, and our biggest
I
complaint is
was
that there's
literally, honest to God, I was on the tip of my tongue about to make the same comparison about how, when you watch the Transformer movies, then you just don't give a fuck about the humans, but you have to watch it to get to the good parts. Yes.
That's exactly how it is in the first two Thor movies, right? I just want to see epic gods battling, and I'm forced to watch the humans. That's why Ragnarok was so great, because all we explored were the gods and other species and everything. I didn't have to be
And
like,
there was no romance.
there was no romance. There was that quick, sorry Jane broke up with you. And I thought that was
Right?
great.
Oh my God.
Which I'm really so I don't know if you know this, Brittany, because I know you're not as like active on social media like that, or at least like the reporting side of it. But we're getting a fourth Thor called Thor: Love and
Yeah.
Thunder. And it was announced that Natalie Portman will be reprising her role as Jane, and they're actually going in the direction of Lady Thor.
That's crazy. I thought they could get Natalie Portman back, but she's like, you know what? You're gonna make me Thor, okay?
I think that's what it was. I think that she saw the script that Taika Waititi put together, and she was impressed. I mean, apparently Chris Hemsworth was really bored of playing Thor and almost considered quitting until he, became involved in Ragnarok. So, Taika Waititi is a great freaking director and writer. The fact that he is, bringing all these people back. But my point in saying,
you gave him more depth.
He gave him more depth because before this, like, yeah, I like Thor. He was an essential part of the Avengers, but I found his character very boring and bland. And then in Ragnarok, he has humor, but he has heart. And then in Infinity War and Endgame, I mean, Jesus Christ, he's one of the best characters in the MCU now. So this is the power of Taika Waititi. I'm telling you, the power of him.
You know what Thor is? He's a himbo.
I've heard
Have you seen
that.
Gosh,
Oh my god.
he's a himbo. Look at him.
Oh my god. But yes, I love Loki impersonating Captain America and Thor 2. And I'm very excited for Thor: Love and Thunder. And I'm interested in seeing how they're going to bring back Jane's character and how she becomes her own version of Thor. I know how it is in the comics, but I'm not sure if they're going to say like go that direction. So we'll have to see. But I'll do number 7. What am I going to do? So I'm actually going to pick a scene that is from the Loki show, and I'll explain it to you, Brittany. I don't think it's too much of spoilers or anything like that. I don't know when you're planning on actually watching the show, but I mean spoilers for those who are listening. Okay, so there's a scene in the Loki show in the first episode where, all right, really quick, Brittany, I'm gonna explain it. Okay, so
Okay.
so this is the Loki, obviously, that we see at the end of, not at the end, sorry, the Loki we see in Endgame, right? When they went back to 2012 and he picks up the Tesseract and he like yeets off and everything like that. So it's
Yeah.
like this Loki is considered a variant because he's not going in the direction that Loki's supposed to go. So this Loki is fresh off of being defeated by the Avengers, about to get, taken away and blah, blah, blah. So
We still a dude.
he's still a dick. So he gets taken by something called the TVA, the Time Variance Authorities, and their whole shtick is collecting variants throughout the world and pretty much getting rid of them because they go against.
Do they kill them?
Oh yeah, they disintegrate them. You see it at
No, they want to disintegrate Loki.
Well, they were going to. They sentenced him at first to do that. And then Owen Wilson's character was like, no, I think I could use him actually for, this crime solving I'm doing, right?
Did he go, wow?
No, oh my God, Owen Wilson has not done the wow yet. I'm like, if he doesn't do the wow in this show, why bother having him?
I will feel I will feel attacked.
But can I tell you really quick before I get to like the actual part that I want to put on this list? They have great chemistry together. Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston are fantastic together. It's really great to watch. But so in the episode, right, Owen Wilson's character takes Loki and he, pretty much is like kind of trying to break him down to like accept reality and everything. And, he's pretty much like telling Loki, you killed your mom. And he's like, what the fuck do you mean I killed my mom? What do you mean my mom's dead? And because this is the Loki before Thor 2 happens,
Yeah.
So eventually Loki gets into this room by himself and he gets this pretty much this film reel of his life, but it's the life that Loki is supposed to do. So he's literally watching it and he's seeing everything. He's seeing his mom die. He sees eventually that him and Thor, make up and they become brothers. He sees that Odin says that he loves him and everything. He sees his death in Infinity War, right? And then he sees it goes end of film. Like that's it. Like Loki is supposed to die by Thanos' hand and everything. And Loki sits there and he goes almost like he has tears in his eyes, but he almost kind of like laughs to himself and he's like, glorious purpose, like pretty much saying like, I don't have a glorious purpose, like look at this, I'm literally just like meant to die. And it's a really,
now I'm depressed.
It's a sad scene, but it's kind of an interesting way to rework that whole thing, like him going, I'm burdened with glorious purpose, and for him to kind of just laugh at it because of how almost ridiculous it sounds. So I know that was a long-winded explanation, but I had wondered.
No, I love it.
But I had wondered if this Loki would eventually know his like history. So I'm glad they did in the first episode where they essentially caught him up with like everything that happened or will happen.
Because that way it's like, well, it made it where he could experience maybe kind of that heartbreak, because it's kind of like, yeah, we had such great character development. We're starting completely over from scratch. It just isn't fun. Not to me, at least.
No, and we all agreed when we reviewed the first episode on the MCR, where it's like, all right, we wouldn't have wanted to see this all over again. So it's like, okay, Loki's caught up. This variant of Loki knows what happens to him on, say, the quote-unquote main timeline.
Yeah.
And it's really great because you do get extra development where Loki like reveals he doesn't like hurting people. It's just something that unfortunately is a side effect of what he wanted to do, which is at first, eventually just want validation. And all that shit. So it is really great.
That's a lot cuter and more unexpected than I thought.
Yeah. Well, because Owen Wilson's character is like, oh, what? Do you like hurting people? And Loki's like, what? And he's like, and he literally shows that scene in the first Avengers when Loki takes out that guy's eyeball. And Owen Wilson's like, because you're smiling there. He's like, it looks like you're enjoying it. So at the end of the episode, it's just him after having watched his film reel going like, I don't enjoy it. You asked me for it, I don't enjoy it. And it's like, oh my God, I love this.
All we ever wanted. We wanted soft Loki and we got him.
I will say that Owen Wilson says something to Loki in that episode that reminds me of what Odin said to Loki in the second Thor. As we just said before, when Odin goes, oh, your main purpose in life was to die. And Owen Wilson at some point says to him, like, because they're arguing at this point, right? And this is before Loki sees his film reel. And Owen Wilson's character goes, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially, you don't have a glorious purpose. Like, your whole thing is causing pain, and it makes others want to be better. And so essentially, your life is crap. And as a result, it makes your like demises pretty much make everyone else around you better and everything like that.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, and I was like, that's messed up, Owen Wilson. But there's a whole like plot in the show, and it's too much to go through right now. But their chemistry is really good with each other. Just saying.
You're like, Owen Wilson, you can't say that.
I really like Owen Wilson in this show. His character's name is Mobius, and he has that flair of what makes Owen Wilson great, at least in my opinion. But it's kind of fun seeing him in like the Marvel wacky universe, so I really like it. Anyway, that was me.
I have a friend.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, I have a friend at work because she came up to me and she said, look up Owen Wilson in Loki. And I said, okay. She goes, is he hot? And I said, I'm looking respectfully. And she was like, yeah. I said, I don't know if his hair is doing it for me, but, he is gorgeous. And she's like, good. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. I was like, okay.
It is like, funny and everything. He's himself, but it's still great, and I really like their interactions with each other. So yeah, that's my number 7. Let's move on. Brittany, what is your number 6?
I think I'm gonna go with since we're getting on up there, I want to go with when Loki fucks with Valkyrie. Whenever yes, when he's sitting there, and because they're like in this hand-to-hand combat, and I was like, Loki's gonna get his ass beat by Valkyrie. I mean, look at her, she's just like, I don't know, he's outclassed. And when he realized, oh yeah, Thor, Loki is still Loki.
Mm-hmm.
He knows he's not the strongest. He's been doing this with Thor for so long that you'd have to think, well, how would he get away with it? And it's like, oh, when he does the mind fuck with her and brings back her traumatic past, because didn't the love of her life also perish in the battle?
Yeah, so Taika Waititi, the director of Thor Ragnarok, pretty much confirmed that woman in the flashback who took the sword from Hela was Valkyrie's lover.
Oh, and it's like for her to relive it, and it does make you curious. Like, I do not blame Owen Wilson for asking him that question, because he seemed pretty ecstatic about how fucking upset she was.
Well, I mean, that was a great scene because first of all, I kind of like them going hand to hand, right? Because it's fun to see Loki fight sometimes because he's not a very physical person. It's almost like the Joker. You never really see the Joker going hand to hand with Batman, right? So you don't really see Loki doing a whole lot of physical fighting. So I like the back and forth. And when he quickly sees that which by the way, I love that everyone is just like so enamored with the Valkyries, right? Because even Thor is like, oh my God, I love the Valkyries. I wanted to be them. But, then I found out that they're all women, so I couldn't join. But I love you guys. And it's like, I love how even Loki is like, you were a Valkyrie, right? Like that means something, being a Valkyrie. And, Valkyrie says something along the lines of, whatever, I guess it was a tragic or something. He's like, oh, it must be very tragic. And he like takes her head instantly. And when you see that flashback, and it's like, as you said, oh shit, Loki, you're just like re-bringing up all that bullshit.
Yeah. And he's like, and I'll do it again. I don't know. I was very much there for it. Like, because you know us, Tia. We love a good villain, and so to see that, I was like, this is doing something for me. I kind of enjoy how evil he is, or can be. Like, no, but I will say, let's not pretend he's a good man, though. Like, he may get his redemption story, but he was a fucking dickhead for a long ass time.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I was going to say really quick, this reminds me of it, just as you said, but it reminds me of in Thor Ragnarok too, when when Bruce Banner sees Loki and he's like, oh, last time we saw you, you're trying to kill us. How you feeling now? And Loki's like, it varies day to day.
It varies day to day. You know what? I feel like I relate with that.
But as you said, at the end of the day, Loki's a little shit. And so, I mean, that was his way of, say, getting one up in that fight. Okay, he can't beat Valkyrie on a physical level. So he's going to then, kind of psychologically fuck with her. And he did. I mean, you saw how upset she got. You saw how upset.
Yeah, I would say... He paid for it though, didn't he? Didn't she like beat the shit out of him whenever she realized?
Oh yeah, she definitely got out of him and knocked him on his ass and everything. So I mean, come on, Valkyrie is strong as hell.
You can't expect much different from her.
Nah, not at all. She's the king of Asgard now. Like, she's strong as shit.
I'm gonna say she is the king of Asgard now.
She's the king of Asgard, as she should be. Like, all praise Valkyrie. I love that shit. Can I tell you really quick?
I love that, as she should be.
No, you know what I want to say? Like, I'm so glad they didn't go in, like, the romantic direction between her and Thor. I thought that I thought they were going to for a second when... there's a scene in Ragnarok where they like both get on the ship and they kind of like land close to each other and they have this awkward little moment, and I'm like, oh man, are we going in this direction? But it didn't, so I'm glad it didn't. And then Thor made her the king of Asgard, and it was awesome.
It was everything we wanted.
Yeah, it was literally everything that we wanted. So I love it. I love that shit. I'm a little sad. So do you remember when Thor Ragnarok came out and they had something like, remember Thor called them the Revengers?
Oh my God. Yeah, it was a perfect name though. I wish they would have kept it.
I was going to say, am I the only one who like wishes we had more of the Revengers? They were kind of perfect. I
really loved it.
They were kind of like a perfect little group with each other.
I know. I was like, the name's perfect. It would have been like perfect for the play on, because it's just like, it's like the Guardians of the Galaxy. What a bunch of a-holes.
Right? They were perfect. You had Loki, you had Valkyrie, you had Thor. They were great.
I know. I kind of like, because it does, because Love and Thunder takes place with him going with the Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Well, I mean, it takes place after Endgame. So, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that that's what's going to happen, because every single member of the Guardians of the Galaxy were spotted on set. So I'm assuming that it's going to explore Thor, going off with them, because that's where we saw him at the end of Endgame. I mean, come on, you cannot deprive us of the beauty that is Thor and Star-Lord interacting.
I know. And I'm going to say, Because we no longer. I wonder if we're still gonna have Fat Thor though. I love Fat Thor.
Oh my god, he was great. I love that we had him like all throughout Endgame. Someone pointed out that they were really happy at the end of Endgame that he didn't just say get instantly cut when he, got that epic beard and everything like that. I'm like, me too. Me too. It showed that like
Yeah.
Thor can still be worthy and the god of thunder, even though he's kind of let himself go.
Yeah. And I love that it showed that he could. Depression's a hell of a drug.
It fucking really is. And I felt that it was very truthful. And see, that's the thing. So I know I say this a lot, but some people say the Marvel movies are too like childish and everything. And I'm like, you got to look for the things because that was a commentary on a very real thing. And I thought they did it really good.
I know, because they still kept it lighthearted enough that people aren't like, oh, I'm depressed now, while still keeping it, fun and family friendly.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, whatchamacallit it? Sorry. Whatchamacallit it? So I will get number 5 here. Sorry for sounding distracted for a second. I was asking my boyfriend if he could get me ice cream. Everyone needs to know that.
Ice cream too. That's why I was like apologizing earlier if I sound weird. My allergies are going crazy. Arkansas has a crazy amount of grass pollen right now, and it is fucking me up.
Right? Whatchamacallit it? I like 1 year had allergies, not like a whole bunch or anything like that, but there was like 1 year a few years ago I got it, and I sat there and said, I know now what everyone is going through. This is awful.
I don't normally get allergies, and that's how I feel right now, where I'm like, you know what? I feel sorry for everyone now.
Right? It sucks. It really does. Whatchamacallit? So I will get number 5, and I will get so I want to take this before you take it, right? And I'm gonna get the confrontation between Loki and Natasha in the first Avengers.
I knew it.
As soon as you said Loki and Valkyrie, I was like, all right, no. I can't have her taking Loki and
I'm
Natasha.
not taking any fucking chances with this bitch.
God. So, we have the first Avengers movie. Loki is captured. He's in the not helicopter, whatever the frick that was, helicarrier, sorry.
Yeah, it was like whatever the big fucking thing in the sky was.
Yeah, and he's, captured, he's behind the glass and everything, and Natasha goes up to him and they're having that conversation. This also shows why I love Natasha, because, their battle of wits there, where they're just kind of going back and forth and they're almost one-upping each other, and it's like neither of them are kind of moving or anything, and then suddenly Loki starts bringing up all this shit like, oh, you're trying to wipe your ledger, but it's soaked with blood and everything, and you'll never do it, and this and that, and I'm gonna kill Clint Barton in front of you and shit like that, and then he comes out with like the craziest line that I think had everyone going home and Googling what the hell it meant, but you mewling Quim.
I know a lot of people had issues because he basically called her a cunt, and I loved it though.
It was the Asgardian version of calling someone like the C word. And freaking and then for him to think that he's got one up on Natasha because, oh, look, she's crying, she moved her head, and then I think he mentioned something that alludes to to the Hulk, and Natasha's like, oh, that's your end game of being here. Oh, you want the Hulk? Okay, thank you. And then she goes, thank you for your cooperation, and then walks away. And you can tell
I was obsessed.
And you can tell Loki is so confused because in that moment he realized that he got played.
In that moment, he realized he was the mewling Quim.
That he was the mewling Quim. It was like that meme from DJ Khalifa? Where it's like, congratulations, you played yourself.
You played yourself? Oh my god, I love that one. I'm glad you said that.
I love that scene. That scene's so great.
I know. I was like, I think what I love the most about that scene is because, you knew Loki was evil, but I think for me, it was like, yeah, he's evil. But, how evil is he? Is he a pushover? And you're like, oh, he's getting a little dark and scary right now. I don't know how I feel about that.
It was really intense, and I really enjoyed that scene between them. Full disclosure, that scene totally inspired me to write a fanfic about it. I sat there. Yeah, and I think it did for everyone. If you went on places like Archive of Our Own or fanfiction.net at the time, I forget which one was bigger. I'm not sure if fanfiction.net was still really active at that moment, but damn, the amount of fan fictions that came out after that when with Loki and Natasha, they were out there.
Oh, I know. And you know what? It's like, I don't care. It's toxic. I still love it.
Yeah, fuck that, right?
Where you're like, I shouldn't like this, but TikTok has taught me I have never had an original thought in my life. So you know what? I'm here for it. And it's like I'm like, okay, that's fucked up. There's someone that's already thought it 10 times over, so I'm good.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's like there's an episode of South Park, God, from years ago, years and years. I don't even know how many years ago, because South Park's been around probably for as long as I've been born. But there's an episode where Butters is freaking out because every time he thinks of something, someone's like, "The Simpsons did it." And it's like, the Simpsons did it, the Simpsons did it. And I think at the end of the episode, they point out, like, the Simpsons have done everything because they've been around for like a million fucking years. And they're like, and even if the Simpsons haven't done it, someone else before you has done it, because no idea is really truly original. Someone has done it before you. So don't freak out. If you think of something and you go, oh God, that's like da da da, just make it your own. Just make it your own. Yeah. And who the hell cares?
Doesn't it feel like on TikTok when I'm like, oh, I have this really awesome idea, and I see somebody does it, and I'm like, oh, I can't do it. I think I saw actually a TikTok about a lady that was like, you know what, just do it and do it better. You're never going to be the first person to do it, so you might as well just fucking, have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. I feel the same way. Like, just do it, and who cares? But yeah,
we can't do a podcast because somebody already else did it. That's how it works.
Isn't there a thing now? I see some people on YouTube who are like, everyone has a podcast. And it's like, okay, I'm going to still have a podcast.
That's kind of like, there's this game I play called Final Fantasy, and it's an MMO, and they have a new class coming out called the Reaper, and you get to be like a Reaper. You have the scythe and everything, and I think it's so cool. And I told somebody, I was like, oh, I can't wait to play with that class when it comes out. And they're like, oh, you and everybody else. And I was like, well, because it's cool. Are you saying because everybody wants to do it, I can't do it? That makes no sense. Why do they get to do it? And I'm the basic bitch if I do it.
Yeah, there's this whole thing that people hate on people for liking things that are popular, and it's like, get over it. It's like you have a subsection of people on Twitter who think that people who like Marvel too much are, oh, you just like it because it's popular. Anything Marvel feeds you, you're going to enjoy. And it's like, first of all, I mean, I do watch things so that they're entertaining. I'm not some like highbrow like film critic or something. I want to be entertained. If it entertains me, that's all I freaking need, right? And at the same time, it's like, they're good movies. Like, they're good movies. Stop, they became as popular and as lucrative as they are because they're good movies. Like, stop hating because it's just popular.
Yeah. Well, we just sat here and realized, we knew the first Thor movie and the second movie sucked to the point where we were like, you know what? I don't give a fuck about the Thor movies. And then Ragnarok came out and we're like, okay, I can give it one more chance.
I also think, and I'll say this really quick, and this has nothing to do with it really, that you miss out when you purposely avoid things simply because they're popular. And I'll equate it to Amy Winehouse. I did not listen to Amy Winehouse back in the day because for some reason I had some vendetta against like Amy Winehouse in the sense of, back in high school and still to this day, actually, I do a very extreme winged eyeliner. And I was doing it because I just thought it looked really cool, and I kind of based it on, say, like Egyptian hieroglyphics, right?
Yeah.
And then Amy Winehouse came to the scene, and everyone in school goes, "Oh, you do that because of Amy Winehouse." And I'm like, I've been doing this before. I even saw who Amy Winehouse was. I'm not, and back then you're like, I'm not copying. I'm not a poser.
I was doing it before it was cool.
So I like purposely didn't listen to Amy Winehouse's music. And then after she unfortunately passed away, then one day I hear a song of hers, not knowing it's a song of hers, then finding out it's a song of hers and going, this is the type of music Amy Winehouse put out. And I'm obsessed. I've listened to all of her albums. So it's like, you really miss out on something you may enjoy just because you sit there and go, well, I'm not going to like it because everyone else likes it.
Yeah, which is kind of depressing.
Yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to go on a soapbox there, but it just reminded me of that. Let me tell you, when you're on Twitter and you're part of a geek organization, sometimes the shit you see and everything is crazy. I was told
on Twitter are fucking insane.
I was told recently that someone who, like, say, follows us, and I'm not going to obviously say anything, thinks that I'm too soft on Disney in my reviews. And it's like, I'm just being honest,
Yeah, what you want to do? Just lie about how you feel about it?
Like, I saw so full disclosure, I saw the Black Widow movie recently. And, my review hasn't come out for it yet because that's embargoed till the 26th, but we were able to talk about it on social media. And yeah, I gave it really good freaking praise. You'll have to wait for my review to come out to actually read about it, but I gave it really big praise, and apparently I was told that I'm too soft on Disney. And I'm like, if it was a bad movie, I would have said it was a bad movie. Like, to be honest with you, I didn't think that the second episode of Loki was that great. And I said it in my review. So I'm like, I'm obviously, open to speaking. I don't give a fuck that it's Disney, I'm sorry. Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, soft on Disney.
I'd be salty about it too.
Soft on Disney. I pretty much have said that every live action movie they've done of remakes of their animated movies are crap. But anyway, whatever. We're not here for that. We're here for Loki. Let's continue on. Brittany, what's your number 4?
I'm gonna go with I hate to already throw it out there, but Loki going against Thanos.
Yes.
So, because for me it's like, you had the how would you say, this build up to Loki's bad guy, but he's a good guy sometimes, but he's always, the one thing you can always count on with Loki is that he's always going to betray you and all these things. And did you ever see him being truly heroic, where he was like, yeah, I'll give up my brother and let him die? And for a second, Thor's like believes it before you realize, no, Loki could have got out of there. Because I think it said that, the other people escaped through escape pods, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's how Valkyrie was alive and the others from Asgard.
Yeah, and it's like he's very easily could have turned himself into a child to sneak onto the fucking thing. Mm-hmm. It would not be out of character for him. But it's like, no, instead he stayed to be a good person. And it's like he ultimately protected his brother. And he's like, and we have a Hulk. And I'm like,
it comes full circle.
It came full circle after fucking, the whole thing with, with Thor. What'd you say?
It's the whole thing. Remember in the first Avengers, Loki and Tony are talking back and forth, and Loki's like, I have an army. And Tony's like, we have a Hulk. And it's like, for Loki to do that.
And he was fully joining in, and I don't mean to curse about it so much. I really, I almost did it again. I just really love that scene because that also showed how freaking strong Thanos was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, because when he gets the Hulk, and you're like, okay, oh, he's beating him in hand-to-hand combat in a strength-to-strength combat. Somebody tried to tell me they're like, Hulk's still stronger than Thanos, and I'm like, no,
To be fair,
no.
To be fair, I think he was wielding one of the Infinity Stones. So
Yeah, but I don't think he was. But that was the one that like
no, I
warped
know.
stuff or did. I actually I don't think that was the one of power, because that would have been the one that. No, he actually might have had the power stone in that because didn't they destroy that one planet that they hid the purple one on?
Yeah, they completely destroyed it.
Yeah, and that was the one that they got from Ronan, which was the power one. Never mind. Okay, I can admit when I was wrong, but I don't remember him having a powered up to fight like the Hulk, though.
Either way, it was an epic fight. But yes, let's keep talking about Loki versus Thanos.
I think like for me, it was just like whenever he grabbed him by the neck and killed him, and he's like, "No more." What was it like? No more resurrections.
Oh, it's like, you bastard, Thanos.
You bastard. And I know that it was like supposed to be their way of telling us, like, "Oh, he's not coming back this time. It's not." Oh, and when he went, that moment when you don't know if he went blue because he suffocated because of his broken neck or because he was slightly turning back. Ice giant, frost giant.
Oh my god. And then he says to Thanos, "You will never be a god." And I'm just like,
through and through, I think, he always had pride in what he was raised as.
Well, because he says, he's like, I, Loki, Laufey's son, son of Odin or something like that. He said, because at first he like makes it seem like he's like, I, Loki of Jotunheim. He says something about like the frost giants, but then he pauses and he says like Odin's son. Oh yeah, he goes, I, Loki.
Doesn't he look at Thor?
Yeah, and he like looks back at Thor. He's like, Odin's son. Like, and he says to Thor, he's like, the sun will rise on us again, brother. And I'm just like, oh, damn it.
No. Yeah, I'm gonna say, like, he ultimately tried to do good. I mean, he's a trash panda, but we still love him.
Can I tell you, I knew that Loki was dying within the first few minutes because I have a friend, and I won't say names because I don't want to get anyone in trouble or anything like that. But I have a friend who was able to see Infinity War before everyone else. And she comes into work and I go, I just have to know. I go, don't tell me anything else. I want to be surprised, right? I go, but I have to know because I'll be thinking about the entire movie. Does Loki die? And she's like, within the first 5 minutes. And I was like, but at least
have a moment where you're like, he could still come back.
But I wanted to know because I knew that if I saw the movie organically and I saw that, I'd be thinking the entire movie, no, he's going to pop back up. He's going to pop back up like he always does.
You just needed to know.
I just need to know. But yeah, that scene was great because, all right, I have been waiting for that scene because I don't know if you remember in Avengers 1, they say Thanos, the Chitauri say, you got this scepter from Thanos. And if you don't deliver onto, what he wants from you, then there's nowhere in this like universe that you will be safe from Thanos. And I was like, there has to be a reunion. And then at the end of Ragnarok, when you see the ship come up, it's like, oh, fuck. This is it.
And they really meant it. They're like, oh shit, they weren't joking.
They weren't joking. Like, Thanos really is coming for Loki. And so when they had that thing at first, and at first you sat there and you go, is Loki really going to go with Thanos after all this development we got in Ragnarok, right? And so
Yeah.
finally it was like, no, no, no. And so when he at first is like, I have a Hulk, that was great. And then I will admit, listen, I love that he stood up for his brother and everything. I was like, Loki, did you really think that that was going to work? You trying to stab Thanos? You just saw what he did to the Hulk.
I guess he was like, you know what? I'm gonna at least kind of go out heroically, but I'm also like, did you really do anything?
It's like that meme with Thor's face when he's like, really? Did it really? And it's like, come on, Loki, what the hell?
I thought you were gonna do the one with Omni-Man where he's like, think, Mark, think.
But I will admit that, again, I love the line that he says to Thanos, like, you will never be a god. And it's like, I don't know. I just love it. Like, Loki's still saying, like, I'm still better than you.
I mean, to be fair, he is.
Yes. But what I was going to say, yeah, I love that scene, Loki versus Thanos. It was really sad. It was really sad seeing, Thor sitting there and, mourning his brother and everything. And I will say, someone pointed out, so I told you how in the first episode of the Loki series that he sees his death and he sees Thor hugging like his body. And then it goes end of film, right? And someone pointed out, if that's in his memories, right? If that's like in the film before the film ends, that means that Loki like felt Thor hugging him. So Loki's literal like last moments of life is at least getting a hug from his brother.
Okay,
and I'm like, I can't deal with that.
Tia.
I know, that's what I said. I was like, I can't deal with this right now. What are you doing?
No, golly.
Well, I'll move on from that intense sadness to my number 3, which is a complete funny one and one of my favorite Loki scenes just because of how, one, absurd it is, and 2, again, just showing that all really Loki wanted to do is be the hero. And it's literally in Thor Ragnarok when, whatchamacallit, they're battling against Hela's people and it looks like they're going to lose. And, all the people of Asgard are like really, afraid and everything like that. And they're running, and there's like no hope for them. And all of a sudden you see a ship and you hear Loki going, your savior is here. And
oh my God.
And
you're like, really?
I just thought that was great. Like Loki going, your savior is here. And I'm like, it just really shows that all Loki wanted was to be the hero, to come rescue his people of Asgard, and to have the people of Asgard happy to see him and shit like that. And I love that. I love that shit.
I love that. I love that scene because it's like, at first you're like, is this ridiculous? And you're like, no, he's just a fucking baby. Well, to be fair, that was also at the point that he was pretending to be Odin.
Yeah, exactly.
So to be fair, he's pretty ridiculous anyway. Oh my God! You know what? I'm saving that for the other one. But and you knew where I was about to go, didn't you?
I did.
You know what? I think that's gonna be mine later on. But it just is absolutely ridiculous because he just pops in like it's almost childlike.
It is, but I still thought it was like hilarious, just for him to be there with like arms wide open and being like, your savior is here, and everyone getting on. He's like, go ahead, get on. And he goes to Thor, and it's like Thor's not even surprised. He's like, it took you long enough to get here, and he's like, you're missing an eye. Like that's the thing he says to Thor. He's like, you're missing an eye, and it's like, I love that shit. That shit was so funny to me. I'm like, thank God for Taika Waititi. He made the Thor franchise so goddamn hilarious.
That is one thing that got me about like that is that Thor lost so much in that fucking movie because your hammer's gone, your eye is gone, What? Like you're losing your dad's dead. Like dude can't catch a break.
Your dad's dead, your mom's dead, your girlfriend broke up with you. It's like a horrible freaking time for Thor. He wasn't doing very well at that point, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, I mean, that's like a shining beacon for me in that movie. Not a shining beacon. I love the whole entire movie, but to me, it's just such a standout. And I'll say one last thing, because it kind of goes into it, but it shows again how Loki just wanted to be the hero because, and again, ultimately, like loves his brother because I don't know if you remember in that scene where Hela takes Thor's eye, right? And she's like, I'm the god of death. What were you the god of again? And he, like gains his powers and like jumps down an Immigrant Song by, Led Zeppelin's playing and everything, and it's so fucking epic and shit. And you see Loki smiling as he's watching, and it's like he's impressed. It's like that's his brother, and his brother finally unleashed like his true power.
Well, it's like his brother was coming into himself.
Yeah, and I just freaking love that. And I loved at some point during that fight, by the way, that Loki uses his helmet to fight against someone. I'm like, I love that shit. I know I keep saying I love that shit, but I love that shit.
He hasn't used that in a long time.
So I'm like, yes, use it to stab some bastard.
Hey, use your aesthetic. We love a king.
I was gonna say, in the behind the scenes for the first Thor, Tom Hiddleston did say that like thing weighed a freaking ton. He said it weighed so heavy and it hurt so much. So I'm wondering if they changed the materials that they use for like other horns going forward, because we never saw the one that looked like the one in the first Thor again.
I know. You would think they would have been able to make it out of something that would be a little lighter. Was that your last one?
No, that's my second to last one. This is number 3, but we can go into number 2, which would be your last one.
No, okay, because I was about to bring up a point. There was one scene I said I was about to go, I can't believe you didn't pick that one. And I almost said it, and I went, wait a second.
Well, I think
I found an order here.
What is it?
But what if you pick it?
Give me a hint.
It's probably the kinkiest thing he said in a movie.
Oh yeah, that is my number 1.
Okay. I was sitting there. I was like, I hope she's picking up what I'm putting down. But I think I'm gonna go with his father's the final goodbye between Loki and his father.
Oh, and Thor Ragnarok, right?
Yeah. Because I think that was what he needed more than anything, was just to feel like he belonged and felt like his father loved him. And when he finally got it, when that was all he wanted it was all he wanted to finally get it in that moment. Even though his father was about to pass away, it was like, I don't know, it was like cathartic because his father was a grade A asshole. Like his father was fucking just trash for a lot of it. And I love Sir Anthony Hopkins, but their dad sucked. Their dad
really sucked. Like super sucked.
I don't know. I just really enjoyed the movie because of that reason. But I think, him looking at him and he's like, my sons. And it's like, because, between your birthright was to die and everything else, it was like, that's pretty fucked.
Yeah, well,
there's not many things worse than that.
I mean, on top of him saying that, and then I don't know if you remember in the first Thor, right, when freaking Loki is hanging off of Rainbow Bridge, and Odin is holding on and shit, and Loki's like, I did this for you, father, for all of us, and Odin's like, no, and Loki lets go. And I sit there and said, you couldn't have waited to like pull him up to then tell him how much of a big disappointment he is.
Right?
You didn't.
Could you not just 5 fucking seconds to not, yeet himself off of a bridge out of like the heartbreak?
It's like you didn't know that he was going to survive that.
Father intuition as he nervously sweats.
Right? But yeah, no, that final thing between Loki and Odin was so needed, but for Loki, you know, Odin just saying like, "I love you, my sons," and you just see Loki's face looking at Odin because that is something he has wanted to hear his whole life. He never expected to hear or anything like that. So yeah, that was really emotional. I said, God damn it, what the hell is up with
What would
this?
you have done? What would you have done, Tia,
Hmm.
if you had seen that, right?
Mhm.
And he didn't say his final words were like, I love you, son. Looks at Thor, nothing else. I probably would have died. I probably would have laughed though, like nervous laugh. I am a nervous laugher.
I know you are. Oh my god, it would have been
I laughed
hilarious
when
though.
Optimus died in the Transformer movies because it upset me so bad.
The best though is when Hela comes out and you see that she looks like Loki, and I sat there and go, okay, where the hell did Thor come from? And then it's like, did he like make Loki kind of look the way he looks because maybe he like missed Hela in a way?
Well, with the mother being the reason, like, for teaching him magic and stuff, and I think, she's the illusionist that gave him that appearance. What if she did that to Odin to make sure he always knew about the daughter he did, like a punishment to him?
Right? I want answers
I
it's
want
like
answers too.
it's like, oh, what would Loki have looked like if they hadn't gotten him because he was a blue baby. So, you know, what would he have grown up to look like if it weren't for Odin and Frigga? But yeah. It's such a good scene, Brittany. It really is. I love the scene between Loki and Odin. And I especially love
We love being depressed.
well, I love that this scene literally afterward is, you know, him dying and then, you know, Hela freaking being unleashed. And I don't know if you remember, that's the transformation with Thor and Odin, where, not Thor, sorry, Thor and Loki, when they both like transform from their regular outfits to their like Asgard, you know, garb and everything.
Attire.
Yeah, I love that shit. But I'm sorry. I love that whole entire sequence of events when Hela is like, kneel before your queen. And Loki's like, I beg your pardon. Like, that's my
I
line.
beg your pardon. He's like, that's my line.
And I love Hela's like, you don't look like him. She's like, but you definitely sound like him, like about Odin. And I just love that whole thing. Oh my god, Hela was so great.
Oh,
I would bring Hela back.
I like how, like, the moment he died, she was back. Like, oh, here I am, and it's like we haven't even got a chance to mourn yet, lady. Can you give me
Right?
5 seconds?
Yeah, she was like, "Oh, he's dead."
What a shame.
It's funny. It's like they never tried to reconcile with their sister. They were like, "Well, you suck."
Well, I guess we gotta throw the whole sister away.
Just throw the whole sister away, man.
Right.
I love it. But yes, we are down to the number one on our top 10 Loki moments from the MCU. As always, let's go through our top 10 before going to the number one. We have number 10, I have to get off this planet. Number 9, the confrontation between Loki and Odin in Thor 1. Number 8, Loki impersonating Captain America in Thor 2. Number 7 is the end of film scene in the first episode of Loki. Number 6 is Loki and Valkyrie's fight in Ragnarok. 5 is Loki and Natasha in Avengers. 4 is Loki versus Thanos in Infinity War. Number 3 is Your Saviors Here from Ragnarok. Number 2 is Odin's goodbye to Loki in Ragnarok. And number 1 is one of the most well-known scenes of Loki. It comes from the first Avengers, and it is when Loki demands for everyone to kneel before him. Speaking of kneeling, from Hela and everything.
You're right.
They just
right.
got That's the scene you were talking about, right, Brittany?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, dude, that's his line. You can't be taking that shit.
But I love that in the first Thor because it was really powerful, right? He's before all these humans and he's just like this powerful god that's almost mad with power, and he's demanding everyone kneel, and they all kneel and everything like that, and he has this whole speech of like, oh, isn't this so much better, you human beings were made to be ruled, if I take away your free will it's so much simpler and everything, I'm actually your savior and blah blah blah. But can I tell you why I love that scene so much? It's not 100% even because of Loki, which sounds bad because this is our Loki podcast, but it is because of that old man standing up against Loki, and he's like, I didn't kneel for other men. I'm not going to kneel for you. And Loki's like, there are no other men like me. And he's like, there are always men like you. And I'm like, I love that so much. And I think, they were pretty much alluding to, and I think even like Marvel came out and said that he was supposed to be a Holocaust survivor. So it's like, I was
trying to remember because that sounded so familiar to me that I was like, wait, isn't that? And you're like, is it?
Yeah, so it was pretty much supposed to be like alluding to that, and that's what I was thinking. It's like this man survived fucking Hitler. He ain't kneeling for you with your horns and shit like that. I love that. And then I also love the scene after because Captain America then lands down and I think he says something like, last time I was in Germany and I ended up having a disagreement with the guy. It didn't end up too well and shit. And I was like, I love this.
Right. No, I love that scene altogether though. I think like the biggest thing for me is that part with the old man, but also just because you know how Loki is.
Oh, Loki, I mean, again, Loki was great, him demanding everyone to kneel. I mean, because they were in Germany, and I think that whole Germany sequence of events.
Oh, they were in Germany. That's a good point.
They were in Germany, and that scene was right after the scene when Loki crashes, I think, that gala event, and he, whacks that one guy with his scepter and he steals his eye and shit like that. I mean, it's pretty gruesome, man.
That's pretty fucked up.
But I don't know. It's such a great scene. I loved him just shouting "Kneel," and it was so great because then Tom Hiddleston, I think the Comic-Con after that, he goes up on stage and he just goes "Kneel" to everyone, and then I don't know if you gotta
everybody fangirls,
but it's so funny because in that video clip he goes "Kneel." And it's like all quiet a little, and this one guy in the audience is like, "My wife loves you."
So, by the way, so I had a second like you did with the ice cream, except it was Aaron saying, "Hey, I'm leaving, bye," and I was like right in the middle of talking, and so I stuttered, and so I didn't want you to think I was crazy, which I am, to be fair. Now I had my ice cream moment.
I know, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, no, I mean, there's so many other fantastic scenes of Loki throughout the years that I could spend probably just so long on it, so long.
I know. And he has so many great little scenes. You almost want to say everything he's ever done in anything, and you're like, oh, I can't do that, and you're like, but I can.
I mean, literally everything. There's so many great parts. I can say, freaking, I don't know. There's so many great scenes. I'm trying to think. Even in the first Thor, when you could see how manipulative he is, and he tells, Thor, oh, father's dead, mother doesn't want you back, and everything. Sorry, peace out, and then leaves.
I guess you could say we do stuff for Loki.
Yeah, no, definitely. I am simp. Loki is definitely, I have to say, I think Loki's definitely my favorite character in the MCU. I've loved seeing his progression throughout the movies and shit like that. I just think it's great. Tom Hiddleston's awesome. He's so
there,
good.
there was one of the guys, you just reminded me, one of the guys at work was like, I don't get why you guys like Carl Heisenberg so much, because one of the girls at work was like, I want to read your fan fiction, and when the guy was like, I don't see why y'all like him, and she put her hands on her hips and she goes, we just think he's neat, okay?
We just think he's neat.
That's how I feel about you with Loki. You're like, I just think he's neat.
I just think he's neat. Yeah, I don't know why. Again, I saw the first Thor in theaters, and I sat there and was like, this. And I remember at the end of the first Thor, right? Because remember, you think he's dead, and then you stay for the end credits, and then you see that scene where the doctor, right, is being shown around by Nick Fury, and he sees the Tesseract, and he turns, and you see Loki in the mirror going like, oh, well, that's very interesting. And it's like, oh, Loki's alive. You're
like, that's all I ever wanted.
And so then when they tease him in the Avengers movie, you're like, it's happening.
That moment when you're like, am I too easy to please? And you're like, no, it's the people that are wrong.
Exactly. But before we wrap everything up here tonight, Brittany, did you have any? I know we said like we could mention like all of Loki's scenes pretty much, but is there one particular scene that you're like, I wish I would have gotten that on the list?
I'm trying to think back. I'm trying to think about anything else. I don't think I do.
Fair enough. I will say my one scene is the end of Ragnarok when Thor is talking to Loki and he says, if you were here, I would hug you. And he throws the thing expecting it to just be an illusion, but it's really Loki there. And he's like, I am here, brother. And it's like, oh my God, you knew that they hugged. And I was like, oh my God, they hugged.
Right? They acted like brothers. We feel like parents that are just excited our kids are getting along.
They made up. Yay!
Hey. Oh my God.
But yeah, so everyone who's listening, please comment down below and all that. Like, what is your favorite Loki moment from the MCU? Are you watching the Loki series right now? As I said before, we do a review show live on YouTube every Wednesday night. We covered WandaVision while it was happening. We covered Falcon and Winter Soldier. We're covering Loki right now. The third episode comes out this Wednesday on Disney Plus, and we are going to be just continuously covering these Disney Plus, shows that keep coming out. And also keep an eye out for my Black Widow review. Guys, please hear me when I say this. You got to go see it in theaters. Well, listen, I don't want to say that, right? If you don't feel safe going to a theater, they are offering it on Disney Plus. So please see it either in the theaters or the comfort of your own home. But see it regardless of where you see it, whether it's in theaters or at home. Please see it. It is so worth it. Don't just brush it off like, oh, it's a prequel. We know what happens to her. She dies, blah, blah, blah. No, it's still amazing. It's so good. Please go see it.
It's like, do not sleep on this movie.
I'm telling you, it's so good, Brittany. I wish I could say more, but it's so freaking good. But please see it. Brittany, please plug yourself. Let everyone know where they can find you, what you got going on next.
I was going to say, you can always find me on Twitch at, sorry, I don't know why I got flustered. You can always find me on Twitch at Itty Bitty Brit. I've been playing a lot of scary games, been playing a lot of MMOs, played Resident Evil for Carl Heisenberg. And yeah, I've been doing a lot of my 3D printing stuff. Hopefully start doing some streams on that soon. I still need to make YouTube videos. I tell myself that every time that I'm going to do it. I have yet to do it. But yeah, you can come see me. And also on Twitter at ittybitty_Brit0. And I also have figured out what I want to cosplay this year. And I'm excited to get it in.
Oh my God. It's so exciting. Do you want to tell what it is? because I think it's cool.
Yeah, I could say I'm gonna do Starlight from The Boys.
Oh my god, when she sent me the ideas of her cosplay this year, I was like, oh my god, you're being Starlight from The Boys. I love her. So I think that's great.
I feel like it's died down enough that not like everyone's doing it, but even if they were, I want to do it anyways.
Who cares? It's the perfect costume, and Starlight's such a great character on that show. She really is. So yes,
she's such a cootie patootie.
I love her. So please, everyone, make sure that you're checking out Brittany. She's a very dedicated streamer who spends many of her time trying to entertain you all. One day she will stream GTA 5. Like, it'll happen one day.
I know. I need to do it for you.
Yes, I will actually watch. I do watch some of your streams, but I'll watch that one especially.
Oh, did you just expose yourself? I'm gonna have a worse breakup with you than frenemies.
Oh, is it okay? Really quick, is it bad? I like go on Twitter to like see like what's the latest with Trisha Paytas and Ethan. I'm like, all right, what's going on now?
Is there not a part of you that thinks that they're both doing it on purpose?
I don't know, because it's gotten too ugly at this point, you know? It's gotten, like, really ugly, and I think that's the last thing.
That moment that if it started out as a joke and it's no longer a joke.
I mean, Trisha may have taken it, like, too far. I mean, I won't get too much into it, but Ethan and his wife, Gila, from the H3H3 podcast are expecting another baby. So I'm just saying.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Gila just announced that she was pregnant, so I doubt they need all that drama. But yes, we don't need a frenemy situation here.
Yeah, are you sure? I mean, we can make it happen to you. It'd be great.
Yeah, I'll make 10 videos about all this crap.
Brittany exposed.
Right? Here's the tweets. Here's the text messages. The 5%. But anyway. As for me, as I said, you can check us out at geek5nation.com. It has links to all of our social media accounts. If you are on YouTube, please subscribe. Geek Fives Podcast. That's where we do the Marvel Cinematic Review every week. So please check that out. If you are wanting to follow my personal, I'm most active on Twitter, TC_Stark. But you could also find me on Instagram with the same user handle. So yeah, thank you everyone who is listening in. Again, please let us know what your favorite Loki moment is, and do you stan him as much as I do? But all right, guys, that's the top 10, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Attention foodies, Discovery Plus has what you're hungry for. With new original series and a supersized collection of favorites, Discovery Plus has the largest collection of food shows anywhere. With new exclusives like Bobby and Giada in Italy and Luda Can't Cook. The streaming service for everyone hungry for more. More cooking, more competition, more originals. All for only $4.99. Discovery Plus is the streaming home of food, plus so much more. Start your free trial.
You don't own me.
Booking a room with 2 beds at a hotel isn't exactly your idea of a romantic getaway. Orbitz gets it. Visit orbitz.com/pride to find hotels that welcome you to travel as you are. Orbitz, travel as you are.
So